Hey everybody, Tracy Brown here. I did not get to do a video the last 2 days, so I had some time this morning, and I just really, this topic keeps bubbling up in my head. I gotta talk about this, so I'm finally here doing it this morning. So we're gonna talk about why body image issues seem to take so much time to, for lack of a better word, heal, transform, whatever language feels good to you. And not me as being the healer, but more about, it seems like we could just go in these layers. And I want you all to know that that's totally normal. And so today I thought I would talk about some of the different, it feels like layers or things that we might encounter and run into. I'll share a little bit about what my journey looked like with that, and what I see in other people, and some things maybe you could get started with doing that. I mean, it's one of those things that we can know a lot, and we can read some books and feel really, really, sorry, I'm using so many ums this morning. I'm trying to get the right words. Very inspired by other people. I know we've all been inspired by all the people out there sharing their stories and the books. And the more vocal people are about putting themselves out there, whether it's their writings, their videos, their the way they do fitness, and just not waiting to do it till they get the quote-unquote right body, self-photography and selfies. I think all these things have such a valuable, they're all valuable additions that weren't in existence 10 years ago. They just weren't there. So anybody that's worked in this work, or has recovered from disordered eating and chronic dieting, that stuff wasn't there more than 10 years ago. And this is one of the beauties of our digital age, that we have access to more of these things that help us go faster and have more of a head start than some of us did. And frankly, a lot of us were just kind of trying to figure it out, and really just going on sheer emotion of, this feels bad, let me turn toward this to see if this feels good. There wasn't a lot of direction. So anyway, I want to go back to, and I'll do my best to kind of make this a little bit more gender neutral, because I know that men struggle, and that those that are more fluid in that don't necessarily struggle with like one or the other. But I'm going to talk about mostly from, I guess, the female perspective, because I am one, and that's mostly who I see. But I do know that men struggle, and people who are, I guess, more fluid, like I said, more fluid with that, are trying to figure out, well, what is the body that's really mine, that I can be comfortable with, that, because regardless of where you are on that spectrum, is that we are still in times where it's like, this is the ideal, no matter like what gender you are, there seems to be these standards. And of course we're pushing against that and bucking that as much as we are these days, which is awesome. And it's just recognizing that we know a lot, but we still feel it in our systems, that sometimes we have good and bad days with that. So anyway, let's go back a little bit, and I want to talk about why it feels like it takes so darn long. Why don't we just decide, like, you know what, my body's great and I'm good? It's because this is I've said this before, this is a diet we were raised on. We were raised on a diet of, there's a right body to have. Again, I'll just speak from the female perspective, and it's not because I'm excluding anyone else, I'm just using that as the example. This is just for the memories that you consciously have, by the way. Another reason that we struggle sometimes with just being okay with being in a body and having a body is, if the one we had didn't feel very met or cared for past our, earlier in our experience as a human being, then it might not feel very comfortable just to be one, to be perfectly honest. So this would be like your under 2 years old. If you didn't feel like your bodily needs were met, it would feel kind of scary to have a body that gave you so much input that you have a body, because there's going to be this conditioning that those needs don't get met, so it might feel scary. And people don't always recognize that's happening in them until they work through some of the cultural stuff. So let's just do the cultural piece first. One of the layers that we all have to work through is recognizing and getting really upset and getting really mad about the fact that we live in a fat phobic, thin obsessed culture, Western culture for the most part, and the only way that we are going to feel like that we can belong is that if we reject it, and you just reject the idea that thinner is better, and understand that that idea is totally made up, totally man-made, and it's not true. That doesn't mean that isn't hard to deal with. It is. But that's your first step, is rejecting the idea that thinner is better, that it's prettier, that it's more attractive, that everybody likes it better. I think that a lot of people say that they like certain things better because that's what they feel like they should say. I purposely talked to, males about like, well, do you like thinner girls because you actually that's your preference, or that you think you should? And so many have a wide range at which they feel attracted to. It's not what we think. I'm not speaking for all, because I haven't talked to all men in the world, but it's like a lot of times they do feel the pressure to like a certain kind of person because that will give them a certain kind of status. And so there's so many convoluted ways in which we think that people are going to find us attractive, when really the bottom line is that like there's still this holistic aspect to being fully and sustainably attracted to somebody. So I think that's one, is rejecting the idea that thinness is inherently better. That's kind of point one. And that helps wake you up to all the ways in which that's supported, whether it's in our healthcare, our education, what you can buy at the store, what's advertised, the things that you hear on the radio, and the things you see on TV, and the actors and all the things. You just start to wake up to like, whoa. It's like when you realize you're so in it and part of it, and when you wake up to like, that's actually something that exists, but it doesn't necessarily isn't inherently right or real. It's super helpful. It's just super helpful to be able to recognize that this is just conditioning that we have been taught for generations. That doesn't mean that it's I know it means that that's the majority of what people think and maybe feel is right, but that doesn't mean it's true. So once we wake up to that, then we start to like recognize, like when you start to read a little bit online or find some, critically thinking articles about how, women have had cellulite since the beginning of probably having a body, and yet we demonize that as something too much. Well, who decided that was too much? And if you look at the history, there's a person who decided that was unsightly, and we have to create a way to get rid of it. Again, made up. And probably for profit. I imagine it was definitely for profit. So that's something that's kind of the first layer. Then we start to, we have like the out there layer, and then we come a little closer to home in terms of like, where were the places that we have our wounding around body. And, for me personally, so I'll talk about the personal, is that I just had so, much anger around the idea of having a rounder, softer body, even if I didn't know. This was when I was a kid. Like, I didn't know what I was going to grow up to be like. But around me, I saw softer, rounder women. And I just made this association that softer and rounder means weak and have no power and swallow their voice and don't fully live their lives the way they want to. And so I want no part of that. And so that created a lot of my bias around rounder, softer, bigger, just because I didn't want to feel like I thought that meant. And I didn't have any, so recognizing like, oh, I'm associating roundness. So it's like a lot of times that we associate, just because of our conditioning, that bigger means, less healthy. And that's all the health perspective I know. It's not necessarily real, but that's what we've been taught from, in all levels of any kind of healthcare-based stuff that, that bias is taught. Again, doesn't make it true, but you think about thin equals characteristics, happy, healthy, confident, blah, blah, blah. Fat equals not confident, not healthy, not fit, blah, blah, blah. You will have to really look at those stereotypes too. And then my encouragement is always to people, okay, so I want you to go talk to people and know people. Yeah, I know you know people of all shapes and sizes that are thin or bigger or somewhere in between. And are you seeing that they're necessarily always healthy? And I always, when I say the word healthy, what I mean is like mental, physical, emotional, spiritual wellness all the way around.
Mommy, can I turn my alarm clock's music on?
The joys of being home doing videos. Anyway, so that is a layer two of like looking at the stereotypes, looking at the bigger cultural stuff, and coming back home, like what are your associations with smaller bodies or not smaller bodies, and working through that layer and level. And for me, that meant a lot of letting myself be really angry about what I didn't get. And that doesn't mean that I blame my family or my mother or my grandmother forever, because they didn't have any holding, and I know that. So I was learning to hold like the compassion for what they couldn't give you. It's basically like, eventually I came around to understanding and feeling it deeply in my bones that like, let's say you need $1, and literally all that let's say that your mother or your aunt or your grandmother or your teachers or whomever who were influences in your life around body and body image and what it means to have a body and be okay and happy and good in your body. Imagine you need $1 to fulfill all that for yourself, to like grow up without body image issues. But the people around you only have 50 cents because of their own lack of being attuned to and held and encouraged to be fully embodied and that feel good and safe. If they only have 50 cents, they're not going to be able to give you what you need. And so that comes from them not knowing or not being able to, not having resource, access, desire, willingness, whatever, to heal that on their own so they could teach you that. For all those reasons. And so I'll make all of it legitimate and feel through all of that. That way one little piece over here, one little piece over here, one little piece over here, all the places that you need to fully feel to get through it. And eventually what happens is you let your body feel those things and let it do what it needs to do. Meaning you have compassion, but you also don't have to suspend your feelings. So for me, it was really helpful to do a lot of embodied imagination, which is what I do with my clients, is, feeling that feeling and being able to move that through your body and feel that without having to retell the story over and over and over again, because you know the story, you know why, you know the how come. And now it's like, okay, you can have the compassion, but let's feel that piece in you that like doesn't want to let go. Like sometimes we want to stay mad, or we don't know how to let go of the mad mentally, but we need a place in our bodies to do that. And so that work is really important, to see what those influences are that have kept us stuck or hold us back. And so that's all really important. And, and basically from then on, it's really about, then really, really coming back to yourself. Why, how come, like, I know all these things. I've actually done a lot of work. When people tell me, like, I really just want to be thinner for myself, not for anybody else or whatever. And when I suggest, like, well, what if you're on a deserted island and there's nobody else around? There's no, thin worship, and there's no fat phobia because you're on a deserted island. There's nobody there. Would you still want to lose weight? And some people say, actually, no. I don't really think I would, because there's a lot about me that I really like, and I think that I would just get better at befriending myself. Like, oh, so what is still out there that you feel like that thinness is important to you for? And so it's just over and over again. And then the last little bit that I'll talk about is this, sometimes we're really conscious and we're really clear that we get diet culture, we get that it's all, hogwash. and we're over it, you know. But we still find ourselves feeling like, I can't be in this body, and I can't be this big a body, and I don't like it, and it's too round, or it's too big, and and it's not because of anybody else. There are some circumstances, and there are some people that just physically feeling like they can be in your body just feels like so much. And when we're feeling more nourished, people get more nourished, and they feel more feelings, it's the quick draw, because there's this old neural pathway to want to blame the body, to want to feel like if I just got smaller, I could feel safer again, or more innocent, or more whatever. And that seems to come from a couple of different places. We want to go back in time and, you know, not have to feel and know all the stuff we know about what we know about our past, or being a grown-up and all the things that go along with that, and the responsibility, and I'm a grown-up and I can't unlearn this stuff, and I've got to keep moving forward, and that can feel like a lot. Sometimes there's some of that, and it's not a judgment, it's just, I went through it too, of like, oh gosh, like, you know, having this body that is more well-nourished means that, like, I gotta fully participate more in life, and that, you know, it's like, I gotta do stuff I don't like to do, and I went through that phase, totally. And sometimes it's like, it feels really painful and scary to be fully in our bodies for very, very good reasons. It doesn't have to be from some kind of abuse or assault. It could be from, like, when I fully feel my body, like, I feel all the grief of not fully being met from, I just feel it in my body. I don't even have any memories of why. And sometimes that can be hard. So it just takes a lot of patience with ourselves, and a lot of building safety with that discomfort, and building capacity and resilience. So don't beat yourself up if you're like, I know all this stuff, I know all, like, the body positive stuff, and you know, I do dress myself in clothes that fit, and I do feed myself well, and I still just don't like being in this body, and I know where this comes from culturally, and, you know, most of the, like, 90% of the time, I don't even care about what other people think. It's just me. I'm like, okay, so if it's just you, then more safety needs to be built then. There's something going on. So I just want you guys to recognize there's lots of layers to this, and not just like, I should just accept my body and like it, and then I'll be happy and everything will be fine. I think you can get to all that, and that might be enough, and that's wonderful. If it's not because you're doing something wrong, and I just want people to know that. So if you have any questions or concerns, this is a kind of really deep topic, and I don't want it to be too sad or negative or heavy for a morning time or whenever you're listening to this, but I just want you to know that, like, sometimes there's more to it, and not to blame yourself if you feel like that you feel like you've done all the right things and you're still not there yet. I don't know if there's a there, because honestly, after you get past or get through a lot of, like, the negative body image stuff, sometimes you might just be faced with, like, wow, and this is another video, but and this is something that I still am, like, releasing pockets of stuff in my system, a place where you just find that, like, you know, tiredness or aches or pains or, like, tensions or whatever, they're still stuck in your body. They're there because that's body memory of stuff, and so you might not always have access to that, so some of the body image stuff is gone, but that still might pop up here and there too, and it doesn't mean anything's wrong or you haven't done things right. It just means that there's some messenger there for you. So anyway, I think I'll leave it there at this point. If anybody has any questions or concerns, I know this is a pop-up random video on a Sunday, so there might not be a lot of people on right now, but this is something I've been wanting to talk about, and whoever watches the replay, if you have questions, please tag me and I will get to it. Otherwise, I hope everybody has a great day whenever you're watching this. Take care.